So right now I want to talk about sweeping tools. Sweeping fits in right at the beginning of a session when you're getting someone set up and you're kind of clearing their energy field of the debris of the week or the day, as opposed to what's usual in their system. So we do fanning first, and I'll just do the fanning because I want to demonstrate a few things after that. And the fanning comes like so. And if you've watched these videos before, you're familiar with this. We do at least 3 times each side, not crossing the midline, which means not crossing the midline means I don't sweep what's on this side or fan what's on this side to this side of the body. Here's the midline coming down the center, and you don't want to bring what's on this side over to this side. You don't want to bring what's on this side over to this side. And I'll just do this, reaching this way, but you can see I don't cross over. It's a very common error. You must watch yourself when you're learning to do this. And remember to do the soles of the feet, and you go heel up to toe, heel to toe, heel to toe. You bring it up. Another error that people make with the fanning is that they come like so, and then they drop off at the end. You see that? Dropping off at the end. You do want to fan following the contour and then up. Okay, just thought I'd show that. Another thing is to use this edge of the fan just to clean the midline like that. Just like that. It looks easy, but I've watched people do it after I've demonstrated, and I've learned it's not as easy as it looks, and it is a skill to be learned. Okay, so there are always refinements, always. Anyway, that's fanning with a little bit of extra about fanning, but I really want to talk about sweeping. And the stone that taught me sweeping is this one. It is green fluorite with a quartz cluster on top of it, and there are little pyrite flecks in the quartz. And I got this a long time ago, I think at the Cincinnati Gem and Mineral Show, and it taught me the skill of sweeping, and it's a wonderful sweeping tool. But I don't use it that often. But it taught me how to do it. And again, you follow the contours of the body as you go. So watch the difference if I'm not following the contours. Like this. Okay, it's like a straight sweep. It doesn't feel as good to the person, and it isn't as effective as when you follow the contours and sweep up at the end. And then you also want to do heel to toe, and you don't want to be stingy. Look at this lovely arc that develops as you sweep. You don't want to be stingy and do this. It's a very incomplete feeling for the recipient. Even if they don't notice it, they are still noticing it. There's a difference between noticing things consciously and just having it be part of what you're feeling. Do you have any feedback, Linda? What's this one feel like compared to this one?
The second time I felt a little sharper.
Yes, stronger, perhaps. Yeah. see about this. This is number 1. Okay, this is number 2.
And that one's making me a little anxious. It's kind of like going all the way up my body. The first one kind of made me a little numb and
the second
heavy.
one was a bigger feeling.
Yeah, so it went all the way up and yeah.
Went all the way up. That's it. Way more effective. Probably the anxiety is inside you and it's revealing it. So Linda's eyes were closed. She couldn't tell which was which, but in both instances, the bigger movement yielded a bigger effect. So that helps us to know that if you want to modulate and just not be too strong, then you can do a smaller movement, like this. That's less anxious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Anyway, this is a very strong stone, and that's part of the reason it was having such a strong effect on revealing what's underneath. So remember what you're doing when you're doing these basic procedures, which consist of fanning, sweeping, and opening the chakras, is that you're trying to get the person to their basic state. So that is why you can reveal and expose underlying emotions and thoughts and content that's underneath the kind of cloak that we're trying to clear so that we can get to the real person and not just what's current that week.
When you're actually doing it, do you use a bowl for the fanning or the
Yes,
comb?
yes, because you're cleaning something off. So quite right. Get the bowl and clear the stone. Very good. All right. So that's a stone that taught me how to sweep. But then I changed over to more fancy items, and not that that isn't fancy enough, but that's actually really good for anti-inflammatory work because this has the green fluorite. And so it also taught me about anti-inflammatory work. And it also taught me what you can do for colds and flu, because if I was getting a cold and I was having trouble talking, I would just hold this to my throat and it would make it easier for me to talk when my throat was sore. But when I took it away, then my voice would drop again and it wouldn't work so well. So it taught me a bunch of stuff, this crystal. Really good. So my second tool that I use, and this is the one that I will use very frequently for sweeping, is this quartz cluster that has fuchsite in it, or you may notice fuchsite. I can see it very clearly here. All this green is fuchsite. It's beautiful, a beautiful cluster. So I really like this one for sweeping a lot because fuchsite is a kind of mica. Mica clears stagnant energy, gets the energy moving, and that's exactly what we're wanting to do when we're sweeping. So to me, this is a pretty ideal tool for the purpose. And again, we are following the contours and coming this way. This is much softer, isn't it, than that fluorite and quartz. Even I can feel it. And that's probably why I changed over. I think that fluorite with the quartz on it was just way too strong. And this feels much more pleasing and gentle to me. And I'm hoping it feels that way to you.
Yes.
So each of these different clusters, they offer different feeling, different benefits, different properties. And so they've got a really different purpose. There we go. Heel to toe and heel to toe. That's great. So that is sweeping with a quartz cluster that has fuchsite or fuchsite inclusion. All right. Now, my other stone that I like to use quite frequently, but has a completely different sensation to it, is this slice of It must have come from a geode, and it has these calcites with these very blunt terminations. Want to see, Linda?
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the stand, and I like to keep it on the stand because it's convenient for putting on the shelf. Instead of taking up this much space, it takes up this much space on the shelf. Which, believe me, with the number of crystals I have, we need to think about things like that. But it's beautiful because it displays nicely. But this has a totally different sensation involved in it. So do you want to see what it's like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just show you. And you'll just say what you're experiencing.
It feels heavier, but yet like white light, definitely.
It feels more
Soft.
Substantial. Do you think heavier
more
means substantial?
With the white light, definitely.
With white light coming off it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that it reduces the anxiety that you were feeling before, or that it increases it?
It's mellowing it out.
Mellowing it out. And that's a great word. It's exactly what this crystal does. It mellows you out. And that is what a lot of people need. And so, you've really put into words, Linda, why I stopped using the fluorite with the quartz cluster on top. It was just a little too strong. And this is so much softer. It's very comforting and soothing. And exactly as Linda says, it mellows the person out because it clears off the static and the overstimulation that's going on in the energy field. I think we should take a closer look at these calcite tips. I wonder if we could do that, Neil. Okay.
Feels like you put a blanket of white light on me.
That's very interesting to get that feedback. And then if I hold it this way, a blanket of white light. It's exactly, and I use this crystal because it's comforting. I would say is my keynote for it. It's comforting. Does this person need comforting? And the answer is yes. Does this person need to relax a little more deeply? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to use that crystal. All right, so those are the two tools that I use the most in an in-person session. And then when we do the remote, I'll show which ones I use for remote work. All right? But now I've also learned that you can do sweeping to excellent effect at the end of a session. When people come to you regularly, and they can come even for years. I have clients that have been coming to me for years and years and years. You don't do that same basic prep procedure at the beginning of every session necessarily. And I will be explaining how to adapt sessions to people who come very regularly and enjoy continuing and maintaining by getting this kind of input, because that's a little bit different from when we're doing more intensive healing work because people have got an issue or problem that they're trying to address. So there's maintenance versus actively trying to remedy something. And so one of the stones that I recently got and has recently come out of the mine is this quartz cluster. It's Colombian material. It's from my Colombian dealer, Luis, of Crystal Light Imports, crystal with a K. And it has a slight pinkish tone to it that you probably can see. And that pink is coming from lithium. I would call this pink lithium quartz. And I have to use it a little bit differently, and I'll show you exactly how. I go much closer to the physical body, and so I'm working right almost as an infusion, because I can't rub this in an infusion manner on a person's body, so I have to work very close to the energy field. And I come in like this, and now I'm not taking something out of the system, I'm feeding something in. And I'm wanting that lithium to actually be picked up by the receptors in the etheric tissue of the energy field. Because we do have receptors there, and they are going to pick up the ions and the chemistry of the crystals. One of the ways in which crystal surgery works. And lithium used to be the chemical that was used as an antidepressant. And I found that using lithium included crystals will render that kind of effect, kind of an antidepressant effect. I do have to add, never ever go off antidepressant medication to use crystals instead. You can use crystals to support as a complementary measure, but not instead. What do you think, Linda? How's this feeling?
Much different than the other ones. It's very calming, almost like sedating. It's
sedating. Very interesting.
Makes me want to just like go into a different world.
Yes. I think it's an amazing tool, this pink lithium quartz. And I'm just following what her energy system is asking me to do, and feeding it in where her energy system asks me to feed it in. Right, there we are, and I've got one more that I want to show you. This rather spectacular crystal, which came actually also from Louise, come to think of it. And this is very high-grade quartz that has hematite and epidote inclusions, crystal inclusions, like needles. It's also self-healed. I'll hold it this way for the camera so that you can see it. And then also this way. It's quite a heavy stone. I love to end a session with this one because it really feeds in. There went my bowl. Just hang on one sec. Okay, got it. It really feeds in amazing, wonderful properties. So let's do that. It's also different, isn't it?
This feels energizing.
Yes, it is. It's kind of inspirational and empowering. It's the epidote and the hematite together inside the quartz and the self-healed properties of the crystal. So there's a lot of different input coming from this to make a very harmonious pick-me-up, I would say. It's just inspirational.
Mm-hmm. I could see that being a nice way to end.
Yes.
Feeling a little more energized at the end of a session, and versus the other one you said at the beginning, kind of
yes.
calming and quieting the mind.
That's right, yeah. No, it's very interesting. And it would be quite interesting just to do a session with all the different sweeping tools. Remember, we once did probably more than once, but we just opened the chakras. One workshop afternoon, we just opened the chakras with different materials so that we could experience the different stones and what it felt like to have them adjusting the chakras. And it's quite interesting just to use a bunch of different clusters that have got different inclusions and so on to see how this plays out. And it's what you have to do. You have to experiment, you have to do research, and you have to do it repeatedly. Once isn't enough to give you the information. So you do want to explore, and you want to feel free to explore in a systematic manner that yields information that is valuable and valid. That's really, really important. Getting a result once is not a reliable and valid indicator. It shows you that here's something to research further. Anyway, there we have it. Very good. Lovely. Thank you.